called the Brickline Greenway. This just recently opened in St. Louis, and it's a greenway, but along this greenway is a significant amount of history that has to do with African Americans in St. Louis. So I just thought I'd take a quick stroll down this greenway and show you what I'm seeing. So I'm at the beginning of it, pretty much at the beginning of the construction. It goes about 2.5 miles towards downtown. So we start here, we're on Market Street, and the intersection here is Compton. And then I'm gonna go all the way to the soccer stadium where they finished the construction for now. As you can see behind me, there's a park and there's some statues. So I thought we'd take you back to the statue and I can show you what those are all about. So before we go check out the statues, I thought I'd show you this sign. And over here on the right-hand side is what's called the Mill Creek neighborhood. Now, if you've never heard of this before, the Mill Creek Valley, that neighborhood used to be completely an African-American community. And this entire community was taken over and destroyed by the city. All the African Americans that lived here were displaced, and it made room for, as you can see across the way, it made room for the 6440 corridor. So all the houses were gone, and it made room for the highway that actually goes all the way through Missouri, through the East Coast, all the way to the West Coast, which is 6440. All right. So this side of the sign shows in yellow the only buildings that remain in the whole Mill Creek Valley. As you can see, and I'll show you a close-up in a second, there was an entire area that started from 20th Street, which is downtown, all the way to Grand Boulevard, which is uptown a little ways, and bordered by kind of Market Street, a little bit further than Market Street over here, and to the top was Olive. So all of this area was once filled with people and their homes, and it's all gone. I forgot, there's one more home right here in yellow. So this whole area was taken over basically by the highway, circa, and it's got the date right here, 1940. And they're gone. They're not coming back ever again. I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna read this sign. And it's going to describe what these pillars are, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. It says, the pillars are inspired by the universal symbol of time, the hourglass. So these are actually hourglasses where it looks like the sand is at the top and none of it has poured down to the bottom yet. They each have 2 granite monoliths that cradle a limestone cap, forming an hourglass in their negative space. That limestone cap represents the sand of the hourglass, frozen in space, stopping time and holding history up for us to remember and reckon with. The limestone comes from underneath, buried, like the stories of the people of Mill Creek Valley. By excavating these stones from the earth that we stand on and hoisting them up for the whole world to see, my goal for the Pillars of the Valley is to have people remember the many stories of Mill Creek and its people. Stories that were intentionally covered and forgotten. And now with the gesture of this monument, I hope to ensure they're never forgotten again. So that's Damon Davis. I don't know who that is, but that's really, really inspirational. And if you understand what I just said, they have excavated limestone from underneath the grounds of the homes, and that's what these capstones are in those hourglasses. These are frozen in time hourglasses. So you know how an hourglass kind of runs through and runs out? These are going to be up here as long as the monuments are up here. That's beautiful. And all the way back to the back here, it says Little Memphis, Brownsville, Mill Creek Valley. And this is the start of it. It's called Mill Creek, and there's a lot of people, like I said, there's a lot of homes, and these people have lost everything minus the monuments that stand today. I think you can see this. So inside of the legs of each one of these monuments is a saying and it's a quote. And I'm assuming, and I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to assume that Vernell Turner was a resident of Mill Creek, and his words about his neighborhood has been immortalized in the statue. And he says, nobody was a stranger. That's Vernell Turner. I'll show you a couple more. Here's another phrase from another resident of Mill Creek. This one was Michael Bachman. And he says, it had everything that you needed right here. Most of the communities we all lived in, and I grew up in a community in the 1960s, they were very well self-contained. There was the grocery store, there was the convenience store, there was a liquor store, there was all the different stores you'd ever need to sustain life, and that's what he's saying right here with his neighborhood. Hey, this one looks like the artist and the architect's preliminary design and description of what I just showed you with the statues. And I'm going to read this one also. It says, you are in Mill Creek Valley. This is a community where 20,000 people, 95% black, were forced to leave their homes. That's a lot of people, 20,000 people. One thing I learned about St. Louis is St. Louis used to be the home of millions of people. And it's been depopulated over the years. But anyway, so it's conceivable that 20,000 people lived in this area when today, 20,000 people don't live, close to downtown St. Louis. Anyways, they were forced to leave their homes. Businesses, neighborhood organizations, which were destroyed in 1959 in the name of urban renewal. I was born in 1961, so this happened shortly after I was born. Artist Damon Davis created this monument along with Brickline Greenway to commemorate the Mill Creek Valley community. The soil that has been covered up is excavated and lifted up with the voices of the people who lived here. The words of the Mill Creek Valley residents are engraved inside granite hourglass-shaped pedestals that hold time still and along the flowing path of the creek buried beneath this ground. Thank you to the people who lived in Mill Creek Valley for sharing your stories, memories, and experience of this community. Thank you to Ron Fagerstrom, author of Mill Creek Valley, A Soul to St. Louis, which includes quotes from Mill Creek Valley residents from interviews conducted by the author. Thank you to the Race and Memory Oral History Project with the interviews of Mill Creek Valley residents conducted by Vita, Sister Goldman, Prince, that are now part of the collections of the Missouri Historical Society. To learn more about this and many other stories, place a visit to bricklinegreenway.org. It's fascinating, what's happening here. Another thing that they're saying, which is interesting, I don't know if that's represented by this brickway, is that there actually is a Mill Creek that's running under the ground. So that's something also very interesting. Anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you. There's some other fascinating things at this first stop of the Mill Creek Valley I'd like to show you.